Hi everyone, welcome to another YouTube video. In today's video, I'm going to talk about Google's data analytics certificate. We're going to go through the courses in the certificate one by one, and we're going to review it. I'm going to share my thoughts. For those of you who don't know, my name is Sundas. I'm a self-taught data scientist, and on this channel, I talk about data science, self-promotion, salary negotiation, and personal and professional growth tips. In today's video, we're going to talk about the Google's data analytics certificate program. Should you take it? Is it worth your time? Who is the certificate right for? Who shouldn't be taking the course? And then we're going to go through the course, through the entire certificate one by one, all the courses within it, and we're going to review it. I'm also going to be sharing some tips for taking the course, what to do after you have taken the course, and what are some other courses besides Google Data Analytics Certificate course that you can consider if you want to expand further, or if you are not able to take this certificate, there are a few other options that you can consider. Before we do that, make sure to give this video a thumbs up if you like what you hear. That's going to give it a boost in the YouTube's algorithm, and subscribe to my channel if you would like to hear more from me on a similar content. For those of you who don't know, I was actually part of the Google's Data Analytics Certificate team that built the certificate. And in this video, I actually shared my experience being part of the team, how I got recruited, a lot of behind the scenes information I share in this video. So feel free to watch that video, pause it here, watch this one, or you can watch it later, save it and watch it later. Okay, so with that, let's get started and let's jump right into the Google's Data Analytics Certificate. Before I do that, I do want to mention that everything shared on this channel is my personal opinion and not of any of the organizations I'm currently part of or have been in the past. So with that, let's get started. I'm going to share my screen. So Google launched the certificate earlier in 2021, and there are over 200,000 people who have already taken the certificate. So it's been pretty popular since the launch. So in today's video, we're going to actually go through the courses one by one, and we're going to discuss the specific why there is so much popularity around this course, and why there is a lot of buzz, why people wanting to take the course. Let's go to the Google certificate, data certificate page. So you can go to the link by following grow.google/data-analytics. And immediately my eyes go to, there are two data points that the certificate is sharing to kind of highlight the value of the program. Number one is that the average entry-level salary in data analytics is around $68,000. Based on my experience, this sounds pretty accurate. And then in terms of the number of job openings, it shows that there are about 337,000 jobs over the last year. One thing that stands out is that they included the source. So I definitely do want to see where this is coming from, because I always get curious every time I see some data points. I want to verify it, being the data person. Okay, so they got this data from Burning Glass, which is labor insights for the last 12 months, from February 1st, 2020 to January 31st, 2021. So basically it's 1 year of data from Burning Glass that shows that that these are the number of jobs that were open. One question I still have that I will possibly go to the source and try to verify is if this is data analyst jobs, data scientist job, machine learning jobs, what does qualify as data analytics? Because as we all know, it's pretty vague in terms of like how the roles are defined. The titles don't mean much. Okay, in data science, which is a topic for another video. We'll definitely do that. I have a lot to talk about that. Okay, so in terms of what Google says who should take this course, the course is meant to be an introductory course to data analytics. Basically, anyone who does not have any background in data analytics. So basically it's supposed to be introductory and supposed to introduce you to the data world, the concepts, the fundamentals, as well as equip you with some tools that you can use to evaluate, to perform your analysis and take it on your own to enter into the job market. I love that they emphasize quite a bit on why it's important to enter in the data field. Data is one of the growing fields, and all you need to have is, according to FAQ section, which is very thorough, you can read more that this program requires no prior experience or specific tool is required. All you need is high school level math and curiosity about how things work. Well, I love that. Basically, you don't need. What this is saying, not directly, is that you can just have a high school degree in take this course and be a data analyst, enter the data analyst analytics. And then you can read further questions, what tools, platforms are included. And then they also talk about, will you be teaching R or Python? I have a lot of thoughts on this because the course does teach in R. And from my industry experience, I have seen that Python has kind of like taken off as like the primary data science language, but I'll share a little bit more. I don't have any insider knowledge, but I'll share a little bit more in terms of my thoughts why R was selected versus Python. If you don't already know that, you can actually apply for financial assistance. And one of the coolest things is that they provide support after you complete the certificate, which I thought is pretty neat. You can read it here that in addition to expert training and hands-on project design to prepare you for the job in your role, you'll have access to a resume building tool, mock interviews, career networking, support design to help you with the job search, which I think is super amazing because one of the biggest problems with taking online courses is that you will take the course, but then you are basically on your own. But in this course and in this, you basically have access to. It prepares you more for the real world after the course is done, which I think makes it more powerful than any of the other courses that are out there, whether it is for data analytics or any of the other tech courses. So just for that sake alone, I would I would score this pretty high. Okay, so with that, let's go into the course and discuss a little bit more what the course entails, what are the different courses in here. So as you can see here, there are over 200,000 people who have already enrolled in the certificate. There are quite a few people who have taken this course, which is amazing, and completed this course. My LinkedIn feed is filled with people completing this course and putting it on their LinkedIn, posting it on their LinkedIn, which I find it super amazing. Okay. So let's go a little bit. There are 8 courses in this certificate, and Google estimates that it will take you around 10 hours. I think that's what I read somewhere. Under 10 hours of study a week. So they anticipate that it's going to be 10 hours of study per week. They approximate that it could take up to 6 months to complete the course, and suggested pace is 10 hours per week. Before we go into the courses, I want to read a high level in terms of what the course claims that you will learn. You will gain an immersive understanding of practices and process used by a junior associate data analyst in their day-to-day job. Sounds fair. Second point is understand how to clean the data, organize data for analysis and complete analysis and calculating using spreadsheets, SQL, and R programming. Learn key analytical skills such as data cleaning, visualization, and analysis using tools such as SQL, R, programming, and Tableau. And the last one, learn how to visualize and present data findings in dashboards, presentations, and commonly used visualization. Okay, so far sounds great. One thing that while going through the skills that you learn, one thing I immediately noticed is that they don't claim to, like R is not listed here, like skills you will learn. And I think one of the reasons is that the course just dips your toe into R. It doesn't spend a lot of time in R. That's probably one of the reasons that it's not listed here. Another call out here is that the 82% of the people who have taken this certificate report a positive career outcome. Promotion raised within 6 months, which is amazing. Although the course has not been launched for 6 months, so I would be curious how they got this number. So this is something that we saw earlier. So the course learner outcome service, all-time Google ID support. Okay, so they have basically collected this data from the previous certificates that Google had available. So one of their previous certificate was that, and I think the only certificate that was available before this was Google's IT support certificate. So they basically have used that combined with the survey to kind of like to make this claim, which is fair. Okay, so let's jump right into the courses and see what are the courses are taught here. So as I mentioned, there are 8 courses in this certificate. And from how they are organized in a way to kind of structured in a way that a typical data project would be structured, which is my second. I think I already shared my first favorite thing. This course is primarily introduces you to, based on my understanding, is like what data is about, what is the importance of data, and it's everywhere around us, which I like that they're starting with the basics. The second is ask questions to make data-driven decisions, which I think is, I'm glad that they dedicated a specific course to it, because in the data space, I've been working in the industry for about 10 years now, and I'll tell you that asking the right question is one of the best things that you'll do for your data project. So I'm really glad that they dedicated a full section to asking the right data-driven questions. Love that. The third is prepare data for exploration. Now, the only thing that I didn't quite understand is like, what is the difference between prepare data for exploration and the process data for dirty to clean? I guess like it seems that the course 3 just introduce you to the data exploration, and then course 4 deep dives into turning dirty data into clean data. And I like that they have a more deep dive focus on that, because if you haven't heard already, a lot of the data jobs, more than 60% of the work that you'll do is like data preparation and data cleaning. So I like that there are 2 dedicated courses to data prep and data cleaning. The fifth question is analyze data to answer questions. If you have been like noticing that the project, like again, like the courses are structured to kind of follow the structure of a data analysis project. So you start with asking the right questions, you prepare the data, then you make the data from dirty to clean, then you start analyzing the data. Which, like, yes, this all makes sense. The next course that they have shared is share data through the art of visualization, and I believe that they chose Tableau for visualizing some of the data aspects in this course. This course specifically focuses on the data visualization, and I did take this course. I love that they talked about they go into a lot of details about like data visualizations. Okay, the 7th course is data analysis with R programming. So one clear standout is like the course 5 is analyzing data to answer questions. This kind of sounds pretty similar. So this is data analysis with R programming. This one seems to be focused more on SQL. Yeah, so this one seems to be focused more on SQL, and then this one deep dives more in R. Okay, here's my thought. Personally, I prefer Python over R. And hear me out. The question is like, why did they choose R over Python? From my personal experience, working with Python was more efficient for me and for my team, because a lot of the times when I would build my models in data science using Python, I would have to then go and work with the dev teams, the software development teams, who would have to take my code and put it into the productionized environment. And if I were to work with R, it's going to take them a lot longer to translate that course into a language that can live in a production model. R cannot live in a scalable fashion. So that's why I personally prefer Python. If you're trying to decide which language to take, choose Python. Now, in terms of like why they chose R specifically, again, I don't have any insider information to share here. Just my theory. I think the reason they chose R is because R is pretty good with like the quick and dirty analysis. Since this certificate is focused more on data analyst and not data scientist, they chose R because R does have like pretty cool statistics and visualizations package. And I have noticed that lately I've been using a lot more, especially if I'm doing like some quick and dirty analysis. I'll use R over Python because like the R does have like a lot of like built-in statistics, libraries, as well as models that I can use quickly to do the analysis. So for that reason, I believe they chose R over Python. In terms of like installing R versus Python, I think that's a topic for another video, but I think like it's somewhat easier, especially if somebody's just starting from scratch. Now, that being said, in terms of the ramp up for R versus Python, I think R has a greater ramp up than Python. Python is like a bit more, the language itself is a bit more intuitive, versus R, if you're coming from, R has a more steeper curve to learn, but as soon as you get there, it gets easier. Versus Python, it's like the learning curve is not as steep as R. It's more intuitive in terms of language. Okay. So the last course that they have is Google's Data Analytics Capstone Project. which is a case study. And I believe this course combines everything that you've learned in the previous 7 courses. It combines all of them and basically gives you a project that you have to work on. I would, if you have taken the 7th course, I would highly recommend you finish the 8th one as well, because this could be very, very useful in terms of like applying what you have learned. And also like it can prepare you for what you have to do after the course, which I'm going to talk about next. So, okay, so that's, before we go talk about that, let's see. So you get a certificate by the end of finishing all the courses. Okay, I wanted to show you some of the courses that I have played around with. So there are a few courses that I actually played around with because I wanted to see what's in there. I was not part of every course in the certificate. I was only part of a few of them. So I wanted to like see for myself how it worked. Specifically, one of the course that really intrigued me was processing data from dirty to clean. So I wanted to see how it looks from within. So as you can see that it's structured in like weekly format. So there's like week 1, you have some focused videos, some readings, some discussion prompts with like other people who are taking the course. Refresher, which is interesting. Oh, this is also some reading. So it basically has like each week has different modules. And at the end of each week, there is like a test, there is a quiz that you have to take. And there's a weekly challenge. If you are taking this course, please, please, please do not skip any of the quizzes as well as the weekly challenges, because if you really want to take advantage of the course 100%, you have to do all these steps to take advantage of it. So one of the other course that I wanted to show you all is the capstone. So one thing I didn't show you, but based on my research, one of my favorite things that I previously talked about is that actually prepares you about what you need to do after you have taken the certificate. It not only teaches you the data fundamentals, but it also talks about interviewing. It also talks about like resume prep. It also talks about like negotiation. And I thought like, which is super awesome that they're doing that, because no other course go into that level of detail, because that's, like, let's think about it. Like, it's actually not part of the data analytics course curriculum, but Google really wants you to be successful after you have taken this course. So they are basically giving you tools and tips in terms of like how to take this certificate, go into the real world and actually interview for the job and be successful. And I think that what makes it a super comprehensive course, that it goes from the teaching from core fundamentals to actually talking about like leveraging what you have learned and then taking it to the real world and actually getting something out of the course, which is super amazing. Love that to the core. Like, I love it. Like, I'm gonna take the course just for the sake of watching the mock interviews, because those are like pretty cool. Because one video I was watching so there is a mock interview that they have videotaped where they're asking questions and then the person is answering. So there's like a whole kind of like a demo that is done for you in terms of what to expect in a data interview, as well as in terms of when you get the job offer, like how you should negotiate. And in one of the negotiation tips, they shared that like you can use the salary that we have mentioned, which is the $68,000, and you can, like, the person actually who is negotiating, she actually does it in the mock, and she's like, but Google data certificate mentioned that this is the typical salary, this is the market value, so I want this much money. And I thought, like, if you have been following me on IG, you know how passionate I am about like salary negotiation, especially for women, because a lot of women don't negotiate. So I love that they are giving everybody tools and tips to go out in the real world and not only apply their data skills, but actually get paid for it fairly. So clap. Double clap for that. Okay, so some of my tips for taking this course and pretty much any other course that you are taking on Coursera or any of the online tools. Number one is avoid the tutorial trap. Okay, so this term, I heard it on Twitter. I was looking at it on Google, like there's no specific definition for it. So a tutorial trap is basically you keep watching tutorials after tutorials. And it seems like when you watch it, it seems like you actually got the idea and you have mastered it. But when you start doing it, when you go to the real world and you start applying those skills, you are actually not able to apply it. So that's called tutorial trap, because your mind thinks that you have learned it by just watching that video, but you have it actually not. So one way to avoid the tutorial trap is to actually practice what you learn. And that's why I was talking about like why it's so important to take all those quizzes and do all those weekly challenges, because that's going to make the knowledge stick with you for the long term. Definitely do all the practical challenges that the course has. The second is, in addition to what the course challenges are given, in addition, go after finishing the course, do additional projects in the data analytics domain. Apply what you learned, do a couple of projects that will not only give you the practical knowledge, but it will also give you a project that you can list on your resume and build a portfolio around it. It's only going to help you. So avoid the tutorial trap by completing all the course quizzes, course challenges, and then after finishing the course, apply what you have learned and build a project portfolio. I'm telling you, that will just help you and build your portfolio even more stronger. So it's a win-win situation, and it's going to be time consuming, but it's going to be beneficial for you in the long term. Okay, my second tip for taking the course is that really take advantage of the discussion forums. Meet the people who are also taking the course. Not a lot of people do that, but that's going to be a great way for you to build your network, because people who are taking this course, eventually they're going to be in the industry and they're going to be at different companies. So if you are leveraging the discussion forums here and building those connections, building that network, it's going to help you in the long term. So make sure to do that. That's my second tip. And my last tip is that don't rush it. And it's related to number one, but don't rush it. Take it slow. If there's something that you don't understand, maybe like watch read additional material. Watch another tutorial. So I shared a lot of good things about the course. You can tell from my thoughts that I actually love the course. If this course was offered when I was starting in the data world, I would have 100% taken advantage of this course. The data science job family was pretty new at that point, so it was not as built out as it is today. So there's a lot of knowledge at your disposal that you can take advantage of today than I was able to do like 10 years back. So let's talk about like what could be better with the course. I think a few things. Number one is, I think I've talked about it before, is Python. Python is very, very important, especially if your ultimate goal is to be a data scientist and work in a data science environment where you want to build models and that sort of things. Python is very important because R, as I mentioned previously, is not as scalable compared to Python. And especially when you're working with dev teams, your job is much easier and their job is much easier when you are working in a programming language that is understood by everyone. The second is, obviously this course is by Google, so there is a lot of tools. And so primarily the tools that are mentioned and discussed are somewhat Google heavy. So this could be a concern for a few people. And number three is that it's not really negative, but rather a request for Google to consider building a part 2 of the course that is more advanced analytics. So people who have taken this course, and if they want to build their skill set further, they can take that course. But I'm sure there's a lot of other courses in the market that you can go and take after this one to build your skill set further. And that brings me to my last point. Let's say if Google's data analytics certificate is something that you don't want to pursue, there are a few other options that I think are pretty good introductory data analytics certificates. So there are two options that I would love to share. One is Data Analytics for Basics for Everyone by IBM. This is a very comprehensive course. I've recommended it to a lot of people before Google's Data Analytics certificate came out. If you want to check it out later, go for it. And so that's one course. The second course is the Data Analyst Associates by Microsoft. This is also a decent course. The only thing I would say is that for this one, similar to the Google's Data Analytics course, is that it's very Microsoft heavy, and I guess like that's one of the negatives for any courses that is built by a company that has their own technologies and their own cloud services, that it's going to emphasize on their technologies. So that's something to keep in mind, regardless of which course you decide to go with. The last thing I want to mention is let's say if you cannot afford the Google Data Analytics certificate, consider applying to Coursera's financial aid. I have talked about it on my Instagram page quite a bit, and a lot of people have applied and have received their financial aid. So if you are not aware of it, I'll do another video, or you can go to my Instagram page and see how you can apply for the Coursera financial aid. You just have to fill out a couple of questionnaires and Coursera responds back to you in 14 days. And most of the people, I don't want to claim everybody, but most of the people who have applied for the financial aid have received it. And one thing to note here, the financial aid is per course. So let's say if there are 8 courses in the certificate, one financial aid application would apply to only one of the 8 courses. So you will have to apply again. So that's something to keep in mind if you're considering applying for a financial aid program. Awesome. So that's all I had for today. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope it was useful in terms of hearing about the certificate itself and hearing thoughts from an industry leader. So let me know if you have any other questions, any questions that I did not answer in this video. Feel free to leave it in the comments. I'll try to do my best to answer as many questions as possible. And with that, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.